How you guys doing? I'm doing great. Join me as I have my breakfast today, which is oatmeal and banana. Great way to start the day, but that's not what this video is about. So, in the headlines today, it turns out that the IMF is behind the recent push for an increase in the import tariff on vehicles. As you may recall, the IMF is also responsible for the 44% devaluation of the kwacha. It's one of the conditions for their extended credit facility. So we have the increase in import tariff for second-hand vehicles. We also have the devaluation of the kwacha as their conditions for this ECF. Why though? Why is the IMF encouraging or even demanding these policy changes? Well, on paper it kind of makes sense. If you devalue your currency, you make your exports cheaper to other countries and imports are more expensive. So in theory, you're going to export more, increasing your foreign currency reserves, and you're going to import less. So you're not going to spend much of your foreign currency reserves, right? And the same goes for the import tariff. You're not going to spend much, or rather you're going to be dissuaded from buying or importing vehicles. So again, it doesn't eat into your foreign exchange reserves. That seems like the logic, right? However, that's the theory. Does it actually work in real life for a country like Malawi? That's a different question. To understand why the IMF has these policy recommendations, or rather, more accurately, these policy conditions, because let's be honest, it's kind of like a mobster telling you they have some recommendations for you. You know, I recommend that you don't snitch, just for the benefit of your health. Anyway, perhaps to understand why the IMF has this power over Malawi, we need to know where the IMF comes from and why it was founded. The IMF was established on July 22nd, 1944, during the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, and that's commonly known as the Bretton Woods Conference. The conference, which was held in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, United States, brought together representatives from 44 allied nations to create a framework for international economic cooperation after World War II. The key functions of the IMF include 1. Surveillance, in that they monitor the global economy and provide economic analysis and policy advice to its member countries. 2. Financial assistance. The IMF provides financial assistance to member countries facing balance of payments problems. This assistance often comes with conditions aimed at addressing economic imbalances and promoting stability. Number 3, technical assistance and capacity development. The IMF offers technical assistance and training to member countries to help strengthen their capacity to design and implement effective economic policies. There are two names that you need to know about that are key to the fundamental philosophy that the IMF was founded upon. Those are Harry Dexter White and John Maynard Keynes. Harry Dexter White was an American economist and senior U.S. Treasury official. He served as the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury during the Bretton Woods Conference. He was a major architect of the Bretton Woods Agreement and played a leading role in shaping the design of the IMF. He proposed the establishment of a stabilization fund, which later became the IMF, to provide financial assistance to member countries facing balance of payments problems. Now, White's proposal included the creation of an international stabilization fund to provide short-term financial assistance to countries with temporary balance of payments difficulties. The fund would be financed by contributions from member countries and would aim to stabilize exchange rates and facilitate international trade. On the other hand, we had John Maynard Keynes. Now, Keynes was a British economist and a well-known figure in economic theory, still is. He was the head of the British delegation and played a crucial role in representing the interests of the United Kingdom during the Bretton Woods Conference. Keynes was a leading advocate for an international monetary system that would promote economic stability and avoid the economic imbalances that contributed to the Great Depression of the 1930s. What he wanted was a clearing union. Keynes proposed the establishment of an international clearing union, ICU, which would facilitate international trade through a multilateral payments system. Under his proposal, countries would have access to a common pool of international currency, helping to address trade imbalances. Now, while Keynes's specific proposals for the ICU were not fully adopted, elements of his ideas influenced the final agreements at Bretton Woods. The compromise reached led to the creation of the IMF with some features aligned with White's original plan. The vision White had was for the IMF to act more like a bank, and for all intents and purposes, to this day it still does. It is the lender of last resort for countries. Usually, a lender of last resort is a country's central bank, but that is for the financial institutions within that country. What is a lender of last resort? It's what it sounds like. It is the last place you want to go to receive some kind of financial backing. So when you are in trouble financially, the lender of last resort is the person you go to for a financial backing for a loan. You only go to a lender of last resort when your circumstances can only be described as highly risky, highly volatile, or near collapse. So most countries will want to avoid going to the IMF as they are the lender of last resort. Unfortunately, when you are in a position of near collapse or high risk or high volatility, typically your credit rating is going to be junk status, and that is where the countries who are of that status will go. They will go to the IMF. So who are the countries that owe IMF the most money? Number one is Argentina. Just do a brief check of their history. I'm not going to go into it in this video. Egypt is also up there. Ukraine, one of the most corrupt countries in the world, believe it or not, is also among the countries that owe IMF the most money. Now here is where the IMF's bargaining power comes into play. If the lender of last resort is not willing to lend to you, that affects your credit rating. It's like this, if people see, man, if they will not lend money to you, damn, you must really be down bad. I'm not touching you either. Ugh, get away from me. And that is why Malawi has to listen to the IMF. It's not so much the money itself that they're going to lend Malawi, because I think it's $174 million over the next 4 years. I mean, there's athletes making more money than that. So I don't think it's the money, but it is the credit rating. The ability to borrow from other sources will be affected by IMF's willingness to lend you money. So that's why you have to listen to them. So the IMF has more bargaining power than Malawi when it comes to the negotiation table. That is why Malawi has to listen to the IMF. But now when it comes to the specific policy implementations that they want the Malawi government to make, i.e. devaluation and a higher import tariff for cars. Why are they doing this? Their reasoning is that it is to preserve forex reserves, or to increase the forex reserves. How is this achieved? If you increase the import tariff, you're dissuading the population from importing vehicles. Therefore, they're not spending as much forex. In terms of the devaluation, in theory, what's supposed to happen when you devalue your currency? Exports become cheaper to foreign countries, so you export more. Imports become more expensive to your domestic market, so you import less. Now, the thing with devaluation is, for this to be effective, there is a condition that needs to be fulfilled, which is known as the Marshall-Lerner condition. What is this condition? It states that for a devaluation to be effective, the price elasticity of exports and the price elasticity of imports, the sum of that price elasticity needs to be greater than 1. It's an elasticity thing. If you've studied economics, you would know this sort of stuff. I might do a more detailed video on the Marshall-Lerner condition, but in case you want to know more about it, I've left a link in the description below to another video, an economist who does this better than I can. Now, to fulfill the Marshall-Lerner condition, your net exports elasticity needs to be greater than 1, right? Net exports is exports minus imports. Now, needs to be greater than 1. What is Malawi's coefficient when it comes to the Marshall-Lerner condition? I've found it's closer to 0.31. So we do not fulfill the Marshall-Lerner condition. Therefore, a devaluation is not going to help our balance of payments. So why would the IMF still recommend that? Again, when we go back to the import tariffs, it may make sense for a country where there is adequate public transport, but in a country where most people, once they get a better job, who need to now be at work sooner, they want to opt in for better transport. So they are likely to purchase a vehicle. And where are they going to do that? Likely they're going to import used vehicles from Japan or South Africa or the UK. Malawi is essentially like a dumping ground for, used goods. So the things that are not wanted in the domestic countries or the domestic markets of other countries get sent to less developed countries like Malawi. So is it really going to dissuade people from importing vehicles? I don't know. I don't think so. So this begs the question, why does the IMF recommend these policies that do not work? Is it evil? Are they evil schemers looking to destroy the economy of Malawi so that they have a cheap holiday destination? Or are they inexperienced, unexposed bookworms who just got their master's degree, went and sat behind an ivory table and just plugged away at some numbers and books and articles and devaluation increases balance of payments, let's do that. Import tariff is going to dissuade imports, let's do that. Is it just inexperience, incompetence, or is it actual evil? My money goes on inexperience and a lack of exposure to third world economies. Again, these are guys who went to private school, who went and got expensive degrees and have never actually seen any kind of hardship in a real country like Malawi or another third world country. Not to say that first world countries are not real countries, but these are not people who have seen the effects of economic policies in third world or less developed countries. And that's where I'd put my money. Maybe they are evil, I have no idea, but I would guess that they are not evil, they are just unexposed. At the end of the day though, when you are borrowing money from someone, it's not the lender's responsibility to figure out how you are going to pay them back. That's your responsibility. They of course have some due diligence to do to make sure that you are credit worthy and that you are a calculated risk, but ultimately it's your responsibility to use that money that you are lent wisely. So as much as we might want to blame the IMF for giving us raw deals and doing these things that set our country back economically, we also have to take some responsibility and use these credit facilities wisely. And if we are unable to do that, maybe we should look into funding things ourselves. I don't know, but that's just me, man. Anyway, that's what I think. What do you guys think? If you want more videos on this sort of thing, let me know. Let me know in the comments below if you have any concerns, comments on this particular topic. Once again, my name is Black Isco, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
There's traitors in your midst, please beware the game. They'll try to besmirch your name and envy when you wear your chain. The closest ones will hurt you, tell me can you bear the pain? What broke my heart, fixed my sight, fair exchange. I shed a tear, then I dismantled the snakes. An iron willet took a hammer and an anvil to shape. You could get crushed trying to stand in my place. People that crave the crown can never handle its weight. Talking behind my back, that's but a small thing. Congratulate me in my face, I know that it's all game. I'm quiet around new people, they think that the boy's strange. An infamous last name makes their faces all change. The front pages of the papers, swear you can find ours. I visit my bro in prison, he said I make fine art. man, I joked it's a must that I rhyme hard. Like, who could be the more famous brother behind bars? What can you trust but the process? Be patient if you haven't taken off yet. There's work to do, so we rise with the sun. The perfect time never comes, so just grind, get it done. What can you trust but the process? Be patient if you haven't taken off yet. There's work to do, so we rise with the sun. The perfect time never comes, so just grind, get it done. One.